Hello everyone, this is Richard, your host, with another marvellous video. The diabolical anti-superhero drama, The Boys, has just completed Season 4, and if there's one character who's been the most exciting and unpredictable across the 4 seasons of the show, it has to be Billy Butcher. He's the leader of the titular anti-soup group called The Boys, and he's known for his quick thinking, rough behaviour, and sick sense of humour. Of course, he doesn't shy away from violence, and things get even more interesting after he injects himself with temporary V and compound V to induce certain superpowers in him. In this video, we'll delve into a deep analysis of Butcher's unique physiology and answer all the questions that you might have regarding the anatomy of the character. Before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us, it means a lot. Thank you. Let's begin. What is Butcher's superpower, and where does he rank among the Supes? Like a well-made suspense thriller, the show held back on the true extent of Butcher's superpowers until the very last episode of the season. Finally, we get to see what really killed Ezekiel earlier in the show. When Ezekiel nearly strangled Butcher to death, he suddenly exploded and the room was filled with his blood and guts as Butcher lay there, unconscious. Clearly, Butcher had something to do with it, but he didn't know what, and neither did we. The season finale reveals that Butcher has the ability to unleash numerous tentacles from his body. These bluish tumorous tentacles are extremely powerful and have the ability to snap a soup in half. We see them emerging from a hole in his chest, and when the work is done, they retract back without a trace of what just happened. They're probably controlled by Butcher's alter ego, Joe Kessler, which now seems to have taken over completely. You can consider this to be some kind of a sentient tumor, which probably got the sentience after he administered himself with compound V. Aside from the tentacles, Butcher also seems to have enhanced strength and agility, which is briefly visible from the way he brushes Huey aside like a fly. After this revelation, well, it's safe to say that Butcher ranks right up there among the most powerful Supes in the Boys universe. He still might not be a match for someone like Homelander or Soldier Boy, but other top-tier Supes like Black Noir, Deep, and all the others that we've seen on the show so far will find it difficult to overpower him in a fight. What superpowers did Butcher acquire by virtue of Temp V? Does he still possess those abilities? When Butcher injected himself with regular doses of Temp V, despite knowing the health hazards associated with the largely untested chemical, he gained certain superpowers that helped him in some key Supe encounters. The Temp V gave him heat vision, where he generated a beam of golden rays from his eyes. These were powerful enough to knock Homelander to the ground and even block the latter's heat vision. He also acquired superhuman strength and durability. We've seen him crush a pistol like a cookie and engage Homelander in a fistfight. He could sustain injuries and brush them off like it was nothing, and Butcher with Temp V was a sight to behold. However, he doesn't seem to possess some of these superpowers, such as the heat vision, any longer, probably because it was specifically associated with Temp V, which only worked for 24 hours. Also, let's not forget that even as a human, Butcher is way more skilled than a regular human as a fighter. He served in the Royal Marines and Special Forces, and he has the training that pushes him to the peak of his human abilities and use of firearms, even without any superpowers.
What is it you think you ripped Ezekiel into fun-sized little chunks? I'm the one that gave you the juice.
Who is Joe Kessler, and how is he related to Butcher's superpowers? It might be slightly confusing to see Joe Kessler walking around in person, but as he himself claims every time he's confronted by Butcher, he simply doesn't exist. It's just a projection of Butcher's subconscious. You can even say that the entire Joe Kessler personality is Butcher's dark side, comprising of his ruthless goal of soup elimination without any compassion. This is also the side of Butcher that's in control of his superpower, and this also explains why Butcher starts healing from a nearly dead position, is back in action the moment he gives in to his dark side. Previously, he also had several hallucinations featuring his dead wife, which usually conveyed her concerns and elaborated on the good nature of Butcher. Ever since Butcher surrendered to Joe Kessler's manipulations, he hasn't seen his dead wife, and we can expect him to go completely nuts over his soup genocide plans. On the contrary, if he has visions of his wife yet again and gives in to his humane side, we might see him losing out on the tentacle privileges, which is highly unlikely to happen, according to us. Are Butcher's tentacles a combined effect of Temp V and Compound V, exploring the rabbit reference earlier in the series? If you think Butcher's superpowers are truly bizarre, well, that's because they are. However, we did get a brief glimpse of something similar when Butcher and the boys raided the secret hideout of Stan Edgar. Samir was experimenting on the soup-killing virus and turned this into a facility, where various other experiments were also conducted. While exploring one of the laboratories, Butcher found a rabbit that was being administered Temp V in its cage. He probably felt sorry for the poor animal and released it into the wild, but he came across the same rabbit in a near-death position after a while. Upon closer inspection, Butcher found strange tentacles emerging out of the rabbit's body, and he quickly squashed them to death with his boots. This was a clear hint about what was about to come for Butcher. The final episode has confirmed our guesses. Since Butcher has a similar network of tentacles emerging from his body, we can consider them to be a result of all the Temp V abuse that Butcher underwent earlier. However, Butcher doesn't die like the rabbit, probably because of the compound V in his system that strengthened him sufficiently. Thus, we believe that Butcher's current condition is a combined result of both Temp V and compound V, and the latter ensures that he doesn't die from the effects of Temp V. Can Butcher's tentacles harm Homelander? How powerful are these tentacles? We've guessed about this a long time ago, and finally, in the season finale, Butcher's powerful tentacles are on full display. We also get a good sense of its extreme powers as it engages a room full of people, including Supes like Starlight, Kimiko, Victoria Newman, and a daughter, Zoe Newman. When he comes into the room, we can immediately sense that something is off about him, and the true horrors are unleashed when he pushes Huey aside and aims straight for Victoria Newman. Her guards are pushed aside as the tentacles are far too many in number, and even Zoe Newman is knocked to the side with one swift blow from one of the tentacles. The most shocking moment comes when Victoria Newman is snapped in two parts, and she seems absolutely helpless in front of the tentacles' powers. Previously in this season, we've seen the boys try their best to kill her. Nothing from bullets to acid worked on her. She's been established as one of the most powerful Supes out there, and even in the season finale, we see her withstanding a brief laser blast from Homelander. This means that the tentacles are extremely powerful and can take down Supes of her magnitude effortlessly. Going by this logic, we assume that Deep and Black Noir will be vulnerable in front of Butcher, and Firecracker and Sister Sage wouldn't even stand a chance. However, Homelander's a whole different deal, and the same rules don't apply to him. He could withstand an attack from Soldier Boy, and he's quite certainly more powerful than Butcher can ever become. The tentacles will be nothing but a minor hindrance for him. He can laser his way out of the duel or simply tear the tentacles apart with his brute strength. We also believe that he's more powerful because even after mastering the powers of his tentacles, Butcher still needs the soup-killing virus, and with Victoria Newman gone, he surely relies on the virus to get rid of someone as powerful as Homelander. In short, the fifth and final season is going to end on expected lines with a decisive battle between Billy Butcher and Homelander, and wouldn't that be a mouth-watering contest worth waiting for? Why was Butcher nearly dying throughout Season 4? Butcher's character arc might have flipped a complete 180-degree turn, because more often than not in Season 4, we've just seen him in a near-death health crisis. After the overuse of Temp V, Billy Butcher had a massive cancerous brain tumor, and it left him with only a few months to live. Even Homelander could see the deadly nature of this tumor using his X-ray vision, and he knew that Butcher's days were numbered. Temp V was never properly experimented, and neither was the use of this drug monitored. It was simply a desperate means to level up to the Supes the boys were fighting. But Butcher somehow got addicted to the idea of being just as powerful as them. Queen May first handed him 3 vials of Temp V for a particular mission, but he later sought out more samples, and he continued even though Starlight told him that more than 3 to 5 doses of Temp V are fatal for humans. Well, it led to the inevitable. He could have died had it not been for compound V in his system that kept him rejuvenated. However, he did experience several painful bouts that often left him unconscious, coughing vigorously to the point of losing his breath. Does Butcher have regenerative abilities? How does he survive cancer? Almost every Supe with compound V in their system has some degree of healing powers, and Butcher seems to have a significant regenerative ability that's evident from his action-packed sequence in the season finale. Just a while ago, he can be seen lying on a bed with a pale and sick look on his face. He can barely speak, and it seems like he only has a few more hours to live. However, it all changes after he agrees to Joe Kessler's proposition, influenced by Ryan's violent act of killing Mallory in front of his eyes. The moment he gives in to the demands of his sentient tumor, he's back on his feet almost miraculously. He looks fresh and rejuvenated, and surely it's the remarkable healing ability that's done the trick. Has Billy Butcher turned into a permanent Supe? There are no direct answers to this question in the narrative so far, but it's safe to assume that Butcher isn't losing his superpowers anytime soon. Firstly, let's consider when was the last time he injected himself with Compound V or Temp V. It's been quite some time, and the effects have been long-lasting enough to turn them permanent. Throughout Season 4, it's been hinted that Butcher possessed certain powers that he didn't fully understand and know about. He also had little control over this superpower, until the season finale when he seems to have given in completely to his dark side. The comparisons to a Venom-like entity are quite natural because only when Butcher goes by his plans, the insane abilities of the tentacles inside him are brought to the fore whenever required. We'll get a decisive answer on the permanence of his superpowers in the next season, but it'd be extremely shocking if we find out that his powers are gone all of a sudden. Can Compound V's effect on Butcher hint at Ashley's condition? It's a nail-biting moment for the ex-Vought CEO Ashley when Deep suggests that he should be on the list of people in the office who know too much about the Supes and needs to be neutralized. After she overhears Homelander agreeing to the proposition, she immediately runs to his chambers and seeks out the hidden stash of Compound V. In desperation of the situation, she injects herself with the miraculous chemical, and we see her in excruciating pain for the time being. However, we've seen that the initial impact of Compound V is not very pleasant on normal humans. From Huey's father's painful experience to Zoe Newman's agonizing pain, they all suffered in the initial moments. It seems like a regular human injected with Compound V develops permanent superpowers, and Ashley might also be heading in the same direction. The only difference between her and Butcher's condition is that Butcher used Temp V before, and she didn't. If we're not too wrong with our predictions, expect Ashley to develop a few unique superpowers of her own, and she might just play a key role in the battle that's heating up at the moment.
You took V. It will work on you too.
Is Butcher invulnerable? Can he be killed by the soup-killing virus? Now that Butcher's retrieved the soup-killing virus from Frenchie, we can't help but wonder how dangerous it is for him to carry this virus around at all times. Like Frenchie says, the virus is supposed to fatally affect Butcher because he has Compound V in his system, and from the effect of the virus on Kimiko in the previous episode, we can only imagine the agonizing pain that it'll put Butcher through. It might even be poetic justice if Butcher manages to kill Homelander in the next season and dies from this virus. Maybe even willingly, because he has nothing to live for anymore. We believe that you'll never get a perfect happy ending in a show like The Boys, and Butcher and Homelander are in all probability going to be the tragic casualties of the fierce battle between the Supes and the Boys. So in short, Butcher is invulnerable when you consider normal humans or even basic-level Supes coming up against him, but he's not immortal by any means. As much as someone like Homelander can still kill him in a fight, he's also likely to succumb to a deadly virus that attacks anyone with Compound V in their system. What is Billy Butcher's personality like? Billy Butcher is the kind of man that you can find incorrigible. But in spite of all his negative behavioral traits, one can't help but admire his resolve. He started off on his anti-Supe mission following a great personal tragedy, but he's rarely let his emotions get in the way of the greater good, which he believes is the elimination of Supes. He's fearless and certainly not scared of death, which makes him a dangerous opponent with absolutely nothing to lose. There's a dark and violent side to him, which he's probably inherited from his abusive father, and his emotionally unavailable side doesn't always make him the most pleasant person in the room. In fact, his snarky and rude humor is quite rough in nature, and in Season 4 we've seen a sense of dilemma in him that leaves him caught up between his Supe genocide plans and the plan to only kill Homelander. Now that he seems to have his mind made up, we're all set to witness the darkest version of Butcher in the upcoming season. What'll happen if Butcher fathers a child at this point? The closest Butcher has been to experiencing fatherhood is when he guided Ryan and cared for him. That being said, he never had a child of his own. His wife passed away just when he had the chance of settling down with her one more time. It's a curious question that we have regarding the nature of a child if he fathers one in his current stage. As we've discussed before, he's now a permanent Supe. The Compound V in his system should impact his child as well, especially if the child belongs to another Supe as well. Yeah, you've guessed it right. We still remember Butcher's passionate affair with Queen Maeve, and their physical intimacy might have just resulted in a child being born. Of course, she's been out of the picture for the entire season. With Soldier Boy reintroduced at the very end of the finale, we don't rule out seeing her as well in the next season. It's a bit too far-stretched to assume that she's pregnant with Butcher's child, but wouldn't that be a dramatic spectacle? If Butcher goes on a merciless Supe-killing rampage, learning about a child that he's fathered might just change his mind, especially if the child has traces of Compound V in his system. Do let us know in the comments below about your thoughts on the all-new Billy Butcher, and also tell us about what your predictions are regarding his fate in the show. And if you liked our content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us. And if you liked our content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. Have a good one. Be safe. Thanks, everyone.